Welcome to Power Talks with Santosh Shah. With this highlight episode, we complete the season 2 of Power Talks. The Ambassador of Malaysia to Nepal, His Excellency Dato ILANKOVAN KOLANDAVELU. Malaysia has become an influential nation in Asia today, with its unique approach of economy and prosperity and fraternity. Malaysia's economic growth has taken in a very small time span. How was it achieved, and what are the lessons or examples with which the developing countries like Nepal benefit?
I think there are many factors come into play. First of all is political stability. I think this is very important. Political stability is a basis for economic growth and prosperity. So if you look in Malaysia, the same political party has been in power. It started off as 3 parties during the time of independence. It has now expanded to almost 14 parties. And these parties represents all ethnic groups and races and all regions. And they have been very successful in forging national unity and ethnic unity. And secondly, I think the leadership. We have a very visionary and able leadership. And now, since independence, we have only six prime ministers, And these prime ministers, the 6 prime ministers come from the same political party. Okay. And so there is consistency in terms of policy, So when there is a change of prime minister, it's not a regime change. It's only change of leadership. Okay. The policies remains, but we constantly improve and refine the policies, to keeping with the economic, changing times, So thirdly, I think is the bureaucracy. So we have a bureaucracy which is very professional and very committed. I think they have set a very good track record in bringing in prosperity and economic growth. We constantly invest in our in professionalism of our civil service, and they have done wonders in bringing about economic growth to the country as well as managing the country. And of course, fourthly, is eradication of poverty, irrespective of race. If you look at Malaysia, when we received independence, our poverty rate was almost 75 to 78%. But now, after 53 years of independence, our poverty rate is just about 5%. So I think eradication of poverty is a very important aspect, to address this economic growth. And of course, the other issues are education. We have invested massively in education. Almost 20% of our budget, operational budget, goes for education, because we believe the human resources are the most important factor for any economy. So we have invested massively in education. And lastly, I would think the ability of the government to implement the 5-year development program. So we are now in the midst of implementing the 9th Malaysian Development Plan. We call it the 5-year Malaysia Plan. So it's a 9th plan now. I think we have almost achieved 90% success rate in implementing this Malaysian plan.
During the recent job cuts in many Malaysian industries, migrant workers were sent back to their countries like Bangladesh and other countries, but Nepali workers were allowed to continue. Any specific reason for this special favor?
I think in terms of bilateral relations, we have a very soft spot for Nepal. This is partly in recognition of the bold and brave Nepalis, especially Gurkhas, who served in Malaysia in the 50s and 60s and 70s in the maintenance of peace and security in Malaysia. Some of them, they have given up their lives, in the course of their duty, and some of them have been injured. I think we take note of that, So we always consider Nepal as a close friend.
Mr. Rajesh HAMAL, Nepal's most celebrated movie star. Rajesh HAMAL has acted in more than 250 films during the 25 years of golden times of Nepali cinema. There are millions of Nepali youths who follow you, who idolize you, who take you as a role model, who goes and beats up guys and achieves something that is unachievable. That's why you are a role model for millions of Nepali youths. But on the other hand, you have proven that with patience and commitment, long-term dedication, success and prosperity can be achieved. But if we look in today's time, our youths have been leaving the country or even joining criminal gangs to make quick gains. What would you like to tell to those kind of youths?
It's quite true. If you are persistent, if you are consistent, and if you have a passion that you are more or less confident about, things do work for you. If you are really passionate about what you are, what you can do not lose your heart just by not having a president in front of you and thinking that, oh, this is something that is in the dark, where will it lead me? I don't have any examples in front of me to follow. be an example yourself, and see what you can do it. Especially if it is a field which is not as lucrative, especially if it is a field that has not proven itself in the society. Then you even have to work doubly hard.
Besides just focusing on commercial aspect, you have tried to put a lot of social and national issues in your movies. You have raised issues on corruption in the government, traffickings of various kinds. Do your viewers get it?
They do, but what we do is, we're always like, people point finger at us saying that our films are too much commercialized and they do not actually relate to the real situation in the society or the country, and they are too fantastic and pure escapism, with a lot of fighting and singing being the predominant ingredients that goes into our film. But despite that, we do in most of our films have social issues coming up in one form or the other. It's a different thing that we might sugarcoat it with entertainment, bringing in dancing numbers or singing numbers or dancing. But we do sort of like pinpoint social issues, whether it be women-related in the society, whether it be caste-related, whether it be the government's corruptions or the corruption in politics, or the darker side of various other institutions like police force or bureaucracy, or even for that matter, the corruptions and the exploitation that goes around in a society or in a village. We do bring that out. Our audience do intend to relate with that. They do see that we have brought up the issues in a way that they can understand. Like, I did a lot of films where I was sort of like a very angry young man, frustrated with the system, with the society. And a lot of young people who saw my film those days, they identified with my character. And that was the motive of my character as well, to be able to relate to these general mass. And in that way we succeeded.
His Excellency Hong Sung-MOG, the Ambassador of Republic of Korea to Nepal. The achievements of Korea in the sectors of technology, security, economy and culture is known to the world. Korea's power and influence in the Asian region is gradually becoming indispensable. What is the formula with which Korea has become a developed nation with leading economy in just over less than 2 generations?
Some 50 years ago, when I was very young, I used to learn in the textbook that my country, Korea, has too many mouths to feed, and the land is very small, and there is no real precious natural resources. So I felt, wow, Korea is destined to be poor. Then, in a few years' time, it was changed. They were saying, well, we have 30 million people who can turn into acids. And from that moment, the Koreans thought, okay, we have a chance. This is important. From around 50 years ago, what was considered a burden was thought to be acids. I hope the Nepalese people also have that kind of mind that, oh, don't think that we have too many people in this country. No, each individual can turn into an acid. I think that changed the history of Korea.
And how can that happen, that normally the population of a country that is considered as a problem can convert into asset?
It much depends on education. But of course, you cannot just have abstract education only. You need some tangible things. So the government decided to turn these human resources into a good labor, to produce goods to be imported to the markets of advanced countries. That is how we started. So people started to learn how to manufacture things. People were taught to be exact in making things. So Korean goods started to be competitive from that moment.
His Excellency Scott H. DELISI, the ambassador of the United States of America to Nepal. America and Nepal are located on the opposite side of the globe, yet in just 6 decades, Nepal has developed a strong bond of friendship with America. You have already taken a major step by forming Nepal's Youth Advisory Council for the US Embassy. How do you see this small but very promising step translating into several success stories in the future for Nepal?
What we recognized is, again, this is a very young country. 75% of the population under the age of 35 or 72%. I remind folks, for every old man like me running around, there's 3 like you, 3 young people there.
You come up with the young ideas.
Well, thanks. But so when we looked at this, we realized if we really want to make a difference in Nepal as a partner and as a friend, we need to understand, and we need to understand the young people as well. We need to know what their concerns are, what their fears are, what their hopes are, how they see their nation, because this is their nation and they will shape it. Inevitably, they will have to shape this future. So we decided we'd reach out to them so that we could hear from them, and we brought together a group that we identified with the help of many, many partners. And this is a group that includes Dalit and Brahmin, Janjati, Chetri. We've got Muslim, Buddhist, Christian, Hindu, people from, from Solukhumbu and Kalali and Japa and the valley and throughout the country.
All over Nepal.
And we wanted to sit with them and we wanted to hear from them. And that was important for us, but I think there was another benefit there. It's great for us to learn from them, and it's nice maybe for some of them to have this conversation with the American Embassy. Everyone wants to be listened to. We're finding that as young Nepalis, they had many things in common that transcended the boundaries that exist between caste and community and ethnicity and linguistics. They said, but we're all Nepalis. Now, the biggest challenge for them, and I've asked them to, when we meet again, and we do, this is not a one-time thing for us, this is an ongoing engagement, I've asked them to tell us, what does it mean to be a Nepali today? It's no longer a Hindu kingdom, this is a new country. They talked a great deal about the richness of Nepal's ethnicity and multicultural society, and that's a wonderful thing. But I asked them, what is it, you talk about all these different ethnic groups, so what is it that unites you as young Nepalis today? And I think if they identify that, it is out of that we're going to start to see the success stories and that this country will grow and prosper and build. And I'm looking forward to, if we can be a small part of that, of encouraging that conversation amongst the youth across these lines.
As the ambassador of the United States of America to Nepal, you have taken some very serious issues. Women trafficking, border security, natural disasters, peace process, army integration, and many. When you complete your tenure next year, which of these you would like to see completed and which ones you're not very sure of?
I'm hoping that I'll still be here for 2. But having said that, at the end of my tenure, what I would love to see, I would love to see the peace process completed, absolutely. And I'd like to see Nepal with a truly democratic constitution that the people are proud of. Those would be 2 things that would matter very much to me. To be honest, I would love to see the Peace Corps back in Nepal. And I think that it's been a wonderful partnership. It's a great country for Peace Corps to work in, where we've had a long, enduring partnership, and I'd like to see that partnership restored. I think Nepal could use it. I think our volunteers would welcome the opportunity, and I think we could make a difference.
That was a very successful program.
It really was. So that's another thing that I would like to see happen. Certainly, on the issue of trafficking, we would like to see it stopped.
Totally, completely.
Totally, completely. I don't know that that's realistic in the world, but we have to fight towards the goals sometimes. They may be difficult, they may be a dream, but I think we have to fight towards that. The thing is, sometimes I care about all these issues. I think on disaster risk reduction, we have to continue to make progress. There is no excuse for not making progress, and we fail. And I think the government fails. I think it fails its people. I think we fail as partners if we don't push forward with this. The one thing that we haven't talked about, though, that I would like to see progress on, and that, again, we touched on the need for building that sense of engagement and commitment for the youth, giving them an opportunity for the future. Every morning when I go to the embassy, I see the queues outside the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
For the passports? For
the passports, the visas. You can't build an economy that's sustainable on exporting your kids or on customs revenues. we need to deepen and broaden the economy. We need to build the private sector. Our development programs are great, but development by itself doesn't create jobs, but the private sector can. We need to strengthen that private sector. We need to see these jobs created, and I think the potential is there for that to happen in Nepal today. And that's the other thing I'd like to contribute to, at least to some extent. We recognize there are constraints, the energy issue, for example, and I think it's vitally important that we help to bring about a resolution to the energy crisis. We're trying to bring in U.S. companies. We had an energy roundtable when I was in Washington with your government's delegation. We're working hard on that, not just energy for energy's sake, but so that it can be an engine for growth for this economy. And if we can help with that as well, that also, if the economy starts to work, then you also get at issues of trafficking. You have more resources to put into education, into disaster risk reduction, into all of these other things. So that economic issue is increasingly a focus for our embassy, and I think it'll be a very strong focus for me in the next 2 years that I'm here.
His Excellency Thomas Gass, the Ambassador of Switzerland to Nepal. Switzerland is a dream destination for every tourist in the world. Switzerland is also a role model nation for many voters and electoral candidates in Nepal. Switzerland has contributed to the development and growth of Nepal over the last 50 years. How do you see the outcome of your 50 years long investments in this country?
When I arrived here and was privileged to open an embassy in 2009 after 50 years of friendship, I think I had the easiest job any ambassador could have, is to open an embassy in a country where the links of friendship at the intergovernmental level, at the level of individuals, of foundations, is as strong as it is. For example, if I take the trail bridge sector, I mean, we've been in that sector for quite some time now, but over the last 10 years, we've built about 1,500 bridges and helped to repair about 3,500. Of course, when I say we, I don't mean we Switzerland. I mean we together with our partners in the government and the Ministry of Local Development and Dolidar, which is the entity that is in charge of that. Now, you've seen these pictures of the people hanging, the children, the school children.
Which is very risky.
Yes, that's hanging from ropes every morning to go across rivers. I think the argument doesn't have to be made. I mean, over the last 10 years, for about 4.5 million people, we've reduced the access by 2.5 hours of them getting across those rivers and getting across in a safe way.
Trail bridges has been the most successful project in Nepal because considering the mountainous locations and rivers, that's one major way for people to cross over to another village or go to school, as you rightly said.
Exactly. So you speak school, for example. We have made impact assessments also on that, and we found that in the vicinity of the bridges, the attendance in school has increased by 22 to 27%, and the attendance in the health post, for example, has increased by 20%. We started in the 50s, 60s, with projects that were very classic, let's say, in our development cooperation. We were working in the carpet industry with a lot of Tibetan refugees. We were working in cheese manufacturing. We were establishing technical schools, etc. At a time in the 70s, we had about 100 Swiss experts working. Today, we have very few Swiss experts working in our development projects. We work with Nepalis. The capacity of this country to take forward its own development has increased tremendously. We can build on this capacity. Also, the government is taking more of a role in leading and in facilitating this development cooperation.
His Excellency Robert Piper, the head of the United Nations in Nepal. Peace process, constitution drafting, army integration, and citizenship issues are at deadlock, and Nepal's economic growth is at halt. We are facing the most difficult phase of Nepal's modern history. At this time of political crisis or leadership crisis, United Nations can have a very important role to play. In the last 3 years, we have heard several versions of the peace process, constitution drafting, lots of debate. But you are a person who have been in the center among the donor agencies, international agencies, United Nations, and the government of Nepal, including several political parties. How do you review, or how do you see the past, present, and future of the constitution drafting and the peace process of Nepal?
Well,
I always remind any visitor who's coming to understand Nepal that the scale of the ambition that is going on here, and you've got to really respect that. I mean, the issues that are up for transformation that are spelled out in the peace agreement are truly profound, deep, long-term structural issues. So I think the first thing you've got to appreciate the time scale involved. I look back at the 3 years I've been here, and I see a lot of things to be very optimistic about. I see a CA that is so much more representative than anything that came before it. I see political leaders of every shade that are talking to each other constantly, and of course you can criticize them for talking too much, but there's a lot of post-conflict environments where you can't take that as a given that people, those channels are remaining so open. Even if there is distrust, there's elements of respect and communication which are absolutely crucial for building peace. I see a republic declared peacefully. You know, I see a lot of very sensitive issues that are hard, you know, closely held to people's hearts in many communities. These things are in question, they're being changed, their discussions and assumptions are being questioned, and that is being done peacefully. And you've got to kind of give full marks to the state, for the nation, if you will, for managing such sensitive issues so effectively. Looking ahead, you know, one has to hope that everything will continue in such a sort of positive way. One also has to hope that the pace of change, of course, will accelerate. That's something that all Nepalis feel, and they're not alone. I think the international community wants to see a greater speed in this transition. But as they say, I think an ex-president once said, hope is not a plan. So it's not enough just to hope that things go well and cross your fingers. But also, you know, it would be great to see a little bit more of a plan laid out, even if that plan gets changed as midway. But I have to say the issues that are laid out in the peace agreement are fairly clear, but it isn't very obvious what is the strategy to get to some of these things. What's the strategy on rule of law? What's the strategy on social inclusion? And it isn't easy to find people, frankly, to talk about these issues in government. So as I look forward, I'm looking for a plan, if you will, to make sure that this transition ends up in the right end point.
Honorable Kantha UPRETY, the Chief Election Commissioner of Nepal. The Election Commission is the backbone of a country's democracy. Since a century now, the people of Nepal have strived to establish democracy and have succeeded in doing so. It's a nice concept, it's a beautiful concept that we involve the people to take care of the security, because it's their vote. It's a great privilege that they can choose their own leader. Right. Now, how do we prepare them? How do we make them aware, given we have very strong cultural norms, we have high level of illiteracy, and not to mention the remote constituencies we have in the country. So what are the challenges and opportunities, and how do you plan to prepare them?
I think this is a continuous process. As you have mentioned, that we are a country not only difficult from geographically, we are difficult from literacy wise, and also we have to manage a complicated electoral system which has to be understood by the people, by the voters, by the political parties. So Election Commission has a policy of continuously conducting voters' education and civic education. We ourselves cannot do everything. We have been choosing partners or working together with the civil society and also international development partners to work in the area of voters' education. You mentioned that ours is a very much mixed society, and we are still in very much primitive state in some part of the country, and religiously we are sometimes fundamentalist. Yes. And religiously.
The women are given less space.
That's right. And some women cannot even address their husband's name and cannot call their husband with their name.
Which is mandatory when they go to voting.
Yeah, and that is required for them to tell to our people when we are taking photographs or registering them. This is also still there. So there are a lot of challenges. Illiteracy is one of the biggest challenges. And
This is going to take a long time to
And
solve.
it is not overnight, kind of speed or overnight completion or success. It will take a long time. And we have 75 district offices. We have a strategy of creating voters education materials in all languages spoken, mostly spoken like 17, 18 languages. And we use the materials, and we use all the electronic media, FM and community radios and all these things. And we also prepare posters and pamphlets and all visible portrait, and so that people can understand what is going on. And for the voting purpose, for voter registration, we have to do one type of education. And when it comes to the voting, it comes to the electoral system, then we have to change that education materials and work for the education, countrywide education again. So we have been doing that with the deployment of thousands of our employees in the village. Even we are sending, during the time of election, we send women and men appear together to each house to tell the people what they need to do, where they need to go, and how they should be casting their votes. But then we don't say who they should cast vote.
That's for them to decide.
Yeah.
We had a short and a wonderful journey during the last 2 months. We'll be back soon with the season 3 of Power Talks. Until then, good luck, goodbye, and have a great life.